Assalamu alaikum and welcome to Season 2 of Moetivation, the show where we dive headfirst into the most amazing minds. And that's what we try to bring you every single episode. Unbelievable minds, unbelievable guests who inspire us and motivate us. My guest today, everyone knows her, everyone knows her voice, everyone loves her mocktails, and everyone loves going to the halal goods market. It gives me great pleasure to introduce Fems.
Assalamu alaikum. Jazakallah for having me. I don't know if everyone loves me, but anyway.
You're always bringing smiles to everyone's faces. You're always so full of joy. And that's what I think people love to see, because in a world where everyone's feeling down and depressed, they want something to make them smile. Generally, food does that. Your tantalizing mocktails do that as well. So you're bringing joy to people. But has it always been this easy? Have you, I want to dive straight into it. I don't want to beat
just jump right in there.
I want to know, you look like it's an overnight success, and everything when someone is successful looks like it's an overnight success. I think it was Lionel Messi who said, it took me 17 years to be an overnight success. So has it just been this overnight success where Fem's mocktails has blown up and halal goods market has blown up?
No, it's like Lionel Messi says, I think it took me 30-something years. To be an overnight success. I think that, the hardest thing is I appreciate that you say that, because I don't actually see myself as, I'm here to be the bringer of joy or anything. I'm not. I'm just there to be who I am. And I think that for me is all I've been sharing. The only thing I've ever shared is who I am. This is who I am. And it may seem like I don't share my downtimes, but usually I share my downtimes, or I'm going through my downtimes, and I don't feel like it's a time for me to be picking up my phone, sharing I'm busy crying or whatever. I think it's a bit narcissistic to kind of do that as well.
Looking for the attention all the time, right?
Like you can't. But I do speak about difficult times when I'm really going through it and I feel like it's time to share. I do share some of it, but I mainly share it as stories, not as as a post. I think one of the things that I find is that you have a choice every morning when you wake up. And we all struggle. I do go through my bad days, and I have my frustration. And it doesn't mean just because I have a choice when I wake up in the morning that I don't go through all the emotions in a day. We all go through all the emotions in a day, and we get headaches and we do all of this stuff. But I have a choice whether I want to be happy or whether I don't want to be happy, whether I want to be frustrated or not. And some days I choose violence. I can't do today. I do have those days. But I think most of the time I try my best to go, I just have to choose to be happy today. But it takes a long time to get to that point of being happy.
It does take a long time to get to that point,
possible.
And the mental side of it becomes very difficult. Being in the public eye the way you are, it's intensely difficult, because you wake up in the morning and your followers expect a post from Fems that makes them happy, or that makes them laugh, or makes them feel good about themselves. But you having this down moment as well, when you're behind the scenes, when you're not in front of the camera, how do you deal with those moments?
Look, I think that the important thing, when you go through, first of all, the most important thing I think is that it's not possible to always be happy all the time. I think then there's also a problem. You have to go through every emotion, because you can't appreciate being happy if you don't have sad moments, if you don't have difficult moments. And I think people who kind of think that that's the only way, or that's the only thing you can have, they're reaching for a dream that's impossible to have. Because how do you appreciate having a good moment or having a good thing if you don't go through something that's difficult? For me personally, it's been a very long journey to get to, firstly, a point where I could have better confidence in myself. I think it starts from there. And if you feel more confident, you automatically will feel happier. I don't know if it's true or it's not true. You can tell me, but I just feel like as my confidence grew, it changed the way, the type of happiness that I felt. And one of the things that I've always done, and it's easy for every child, all you do is you smile all the time. Even when you're shy, you smile. Or when you're nervous, you smile. You do those kind of things. And, it's so funny, because my mother used to always think, I'm never going to get married. So, they take you to Mulanas all the time. And this one time, she took me to a guy, and he said the most, I think it was the weirdest thing I ever heard. But it stuck in my head, and it stuck in her head. And I just thought, why would somebody say that? And he said, I smile too much and I'm too happy, and people don't like that. People don't like seeing other people happy because they are miserable. And he said, you need to be less happy. And I thought to myself, wow, And that was like in a stage when I was really like, I was already not a very confident child.
Right.
So I thought to myself, wow.
The one thing I had going for me.
People don't like that I'm happy. Like, why wouldn't people? Now I can't be happy. And I just thought to myself, but I can't. I can't stop smiling because I felt like because I was a bigger girl, the only thing I had was my smile.
Okay.
Like, it's funny because you sit and you think of like random things. And I mean, I've been big my whole life. So I always thought, well, the only other thing I have is I have a nice smile. Now I can't even smile,
so what,
you know?
what did you do about it then? How did you go about it?
It's weird though, because I think I just went through that period of going, I'm never going to be enough.
Okay.
I'm not enough, so I'm not going to be enough. And unless I look a certain way or I behave a certain way, and apparently I laugh too loud and I do all of those things. So unless I fit into this mold that people say, this is what a good Muslim girl should look like, then I'll be marriageable. Because we almost grown up, we almost brought up to believe that the end goal is that.
Wow.
We need to look like, we need to be this good marriageable Muslim girl. We need to be this good marriageable Muslim. That's what we need to be like. That's the goal.
Right.
You need to get married to a good guy. You need to go and live your white picket fence life. And that's exactly what you need to do. And I think the struggle for me, because when you're a big girl and I mean, I've tried probably every diet, every pill, every something under the, but that was in my head. That was the only thing. But what was sad is that I wasn't taught that I needed to be happy with myself.
Yes.
I was taught that I needed to be what other people felt was the right person or the right thing or the acceptable thing. Or even for our boys, like the trophy wife, the wife that he would want to have on his arm, not the wife that he would want to be with in the dark.
And what
more
age,
like
what
the one
age
he
are you
wants to be
going through
out, seen
this?
out. I think I went through this my entire school life, as well as into varsity. And I think when I turned 25, I had a bit of a quarter life crisis or something.
Okay.
And I realized that, you know what, maybe it's just not going to happen. Maybe like every dua I've made is not going to come through. And the sad thing is you go through a point of like, you kind of want to be angry at Allah because why aren't you? But there's an understanding that you don't get that actually Allah answers your duas when He knows it's the right time for you. And also in a weird way when you are actually at that right time.
Yes.
Because it took me going through my quarter life crisis at 25 to learn who I was and to trust myself and to love myself. And that was big for me because I didn't believe that I loved myself enough. Like, I didn't love myself because I felt I always needed to be that. And the funny thing is, I went to a varsity where I think there was one other Muslim person in the varsity. And my friends were great. Like, at varsity, they were lovely, but I went through that whole time at varsity still not believing in myself. Oh. Like, I got my first job based on my abilities, not what but I mean, you can't get your first job based on what you look like, right? Yes. But then I thought, like, the only things that I have is like, let me be really good at this, you know, because I can be good at this. And a friend at school once also said that, like, listen, even if we don't have the perfect bodies, at least we look beautiful, okay, you know?
So was it always trying
I
to
never
seek
believed
this
that about
validation?
myself. I thought I was never beautiful. I thought I never looked good because I didn't have the body that I was supposed to have. And it took a very long time to get to believe that.
And how did you get to that point then?
So when I went to varsity, my friend was very confident, one of my best friends. She was super confident, and I landed up like making friends with her through all of that. And I think I really found like what I love. Because the thing that I didn't realize, that you don't realize about yourself, is that even when you're going through I am not what other people may feel dateable, marriageable, all of those things. There's your innate personality that is there in any case.
Yes.
That people around you will feel in any case. Because when you're not thinking about that pressure, you are just yourself.
Of course.
You know, you're always just yourself. So even though I can be friends with somebody, I can know that I'm not worthy of marrying somebody or you know, I'm not what anybody would feel is worthy in that sense.
Yes.
But I know that I'm worthy as a friend, you know? And I think that also changed things. But then as my friends started getting married, because, you know, they start getting married between their ages, right? So as they started getting married, just sort of your pool of single people gets smaller. And one of the things that happened was, like, my best friend got married, and then I went out with one of our other friends, and they said something to me, and I thought it was so weird because I said, I feel like because she's gotten married, I don't have, because my friends were not friends with me. They were friends with me because they knew me through her. And these two friends, Sajid and Siraj, said, but we like hanging out with you because of you.
Wow.
And it was a turning point for me because I thought I was always dependent on somebody else in order to have that part of me. Like I was dependent on being in a group of friends. I couldn't be on my own.
Wow.
Whereas these people wanted to spend time with me on my own, just for me.
For the person you are.
And it changed a lot because I thought, maybe I am okay. Like maybe I am worth somebody spending their time with. And it takes a long time to go from that to where I am now.
Whoa, this was deep and this was emotional.
Sorry.
And this segment went so quickly, but we need to take a short break.
Okay.
Guys, I know this is emotional. I know there's a lot of women out there who can resonate with this as well. I know you're feeling it as much as I'm feeling it, but we're going to see you shortly after the break. Assalamu alaikum and welcome back to Moetivation. I hope everybody's a bit calmer. It got very emotional before the break, but it's been unbelievable talking to Fehmida. Fems, listening to you before the break, it's so vital to take care of our inner child. The one pre-7 years old that lives within us for the rest of our lives. I've dealt with it. I'm still dealing with it. I actually went to a psychologist who told me, put a picture of your 5-year-old self on your phone. Look at that picture every day. Calm that child down and make that child understand that you are there for them. Listening to you speak, talking about body image issues and not feeling needed or wanted for the individual that you are, but more for how you look. Surely that stemmed from your childhood, and then going forward, being the adult that you are, how have you gotten into that point to say, you know what, I'm okay with it. I'm okay with dealing with my inner child, and I'm okay that my inner child is having a bit of a turmoil and is throwing a bit of a tantrum, but I'm going to look after her because more than anyone else, she needs me, because at that point, as much as our parents tried, they didn't understand the emotional needs that we had. So how did you deal with it, and how did you say, okay, come here, my little inner child. I've got you. I'm with you. Don't worry if you cried today, like what happened earlier. But
I'll be honest, I don't think I've fully dealt with it. Like I think it's an ongoing process. I don't think it's I've done it, I've dealt with it, I'm there. I think I'm still dealing with it because I haven't delved that deep into stuff. I think it's important because when we're kids, I think I don't blame my parents, but I think it's a cycle. They've come from this continuous cycle.
They haven't healed their trauma.
They definitely haven't. I guaranteed my mother hasn't healed her trauma. Okay. Guaranteed my dad hasn't healed his. And it stems continuously from that. And now they're at an age where it's almost too late. Like they can't see what they did, but it's important for us to be able to see what's happened and how we're going to change it. And I honestly don't know if I'm changing it for my children, but I think that I have to work on myself continuously in order to try and change it for my children.
Yes.
But I also need to tell them that it's okay to not be okay. It's okay to say, Mommy, I need help. Mommy, I need to talk to someone, because sometimes I'm not the only person they can talk to. I mean, we all want to be the best friend to our child, so they tell us everything. But the reality is we're not going to be that. And we need them to know that the person that they speaking to is a person who has the abilities and the qualifications to do that. And that's why I think like one of the best things I did last year, I mean, COVID did a number on everybody. Right. And even though I've worked on myself, but I've worked on myself. And I think you can't only work on yourself. It's too difficult. It took me too long. It took a long time for me just to get to where I am. But like, it's not about where I am as a business, or it's where I am as a person, where I am emotionally, psychologically, spiritually. It takes a long time to get to those places. But like one of the amazing things, I think I did probably 5 years of work in like a couple of months, was when I went to a life coach and a therapist. And it made such a difference just to talk about what you go through and how to deal with what you go through. Right. And I don't mean childhood, because we dealt with things that were happening just last year, what was happening in last year. And it changed the way I deal with things in general. It changed the way like I deal with when you listen to hate, or when you listen to all of those things, or when you have moments of self-doubt. And I think the one thing that I have realized, and is that whole idea of like going for therapy is only when you're like you're crazy
Psychotic,
or something's wrong with you or whatever. But something's wrong with all of us.
Yes.
We all have trauma. We've all gone through things. Even going through a car accident is a trauma that you actually need to speak to someone, because it's not just about the physical accident. It's about the emotional and psychological toll it takes on you, because you start getting more scared. It's not just about being more aware. You also become more anxious, because if you pass that same place, how do you deal with those things?
Yes.
Those are all things that you can deal with through therapy, through all of those things. And it took a long time. And I think what I'm sad, I think what does make you sad is that it's sad that our parents didn't have these tools to have this, because when we grew up as kids, I think maybe our aunties and everybody, they were trying to help us.
Yes.
But the way they were helping us was actually harming us, because it was the way they were talking to us. Oh, you should stop eating so many slices of bread. Oh, you shouldn't, like, why are you eating that? Oh my gosh, why are you dishing out so much into your plate? Like, and all of those things sort of weigh on you. And I did a thing once. I sat and I was like, let me compare how much I eat in comparison to somebody who's thin.
Yes.
And guaranteed, she was eating way more than me. And I got angry and I thought, body, why don't you, why do you allow her body to process that much? And body, why are you betraying me? I can't even eat as much as she can, She can have a chocolate a day. If I have one bloody chocolate, it's just like, there we go, 3 kilos up, And we become obsessed with that, and we get frustrated with it because people will say, you shouldn't eat carbs, because... And I just thought, I think our family, they tried to be helpful in that way, but actually it was hurtful.
Mentally
It was
destroyed
hurtful.
you more than physically
I
healed
definitely
you.
think it did, because also it starts putting you into a different spiral.
Yes.
Like, oh, okay, I can't eat anything. Like, okay, from now on, like, chocolate makes me happy. This makes me, you know what I mean?
And has that type of trauma carried on with you till now, to a point where,
it does.
okay, I'm about to eat something, and then I remember what someone told me when I was 5 years old.
Always.
So I am not going to eat that. So my life is actually not enjoyable based on what happened in the past, because I don't want to let go of it, because I'm sitting in this moment saying to myself, but I remember what they said to me, and maybe they are right, even though you're working on yourself. And like you say, we're always a work in progress, but there's always that.
I don't think that affects me as much anymore.
Yeah.
I think now I've come to a point where I have to be okay with it. And that's the work you have to do on yourself.
Yes.
So I think now I'm at a point where I'm like, no, you know what, I'm sharp.
Yeah.
I'm okay. I can decide. You can put comments there, and you can say whatever you want, or you can tell me. Like, I'll probably always hear it, but because I'll remember it.
Yes.
They're memories that are there.
Of
So I
course.
think it's residual trauma that's always there. But I don't over question. I do sometimes question those things, but I don't over it. So if I dish out my plate of food, I'm like, I'm okay.
Yeah.
But it also is the work you do as you go through life. So I think, like, when I turned 25, it was definitely a turning point in how I felt about myself, but also how I could be as an individual.
Yes.
And I think then I started seeing myself as an individual.
Your true worth.
And that was, I don't think I still see my true worth.
But that's what we work
I don't think a lot of us do.
Self-actualization.
I think a lot of people don't understand how much of value, of how much they bring to a person. Like, sometimes people don't understand they have this magnetic energy that you just want to be around. And they can't understand it because they don't believe in themselves enough.
But they've been told, you know what?
Yes.
Calm down.
Yes.
Don't smile so much.
Don't be so happy.
Don't be so loud, and don't, in the jungle.
Don't laugh
it's
like a man.
always,
I did a live once during COVID, and somebody commented and said, oh my God, you laugh like a man. And it's so funny how something can trigger you.
Wow.
That entire live session that I did, I couldn't get that out of my head. And I ended it crying because I was so upset about it.
Let me ask you this. What about the 99 good comments on it?
I didn't see any of it. I couldn't see it. Even though people were like, don't, like, ignore this, that.
Yes.
It is so hard because you are conditioned that the person who is telling you the bad thing about yourself is the most truest comment to you than the person who is saying a good thing to you.
But of course, because we don't believe in ourselves.
We haven't been taught to take a compliment.
Yeah, we don't believe in ourselves, so how can we take the compliment? Look, it is something that we have to work on, because as children, like you said, the words that we were given, the things that we were told, it's shaping us into who we are. But Fems sitting here today, if you could go back to your 7-year-old, what would you tell her?
You're not little Lotta. My uncle used to call me Little Lotta, and if you don't know who Little Lotta is, it was this really, really chubby cartoon, like you used to read Archie comics.
Yes.
She was one of those comics, but she was called Little Lotta because she was this fat cartoon character who ate a lot of food.
And how would you tell her to get through it?
You know what?
Like
I don't
if you had to hold her hand now,
I'd be
your
like,
inner
don't
child.
stress. Why you care about what? Do not care what other people think of you. Care about what you think of you. What you think of you is more important. Are you happy? Are you okay? Are you full? Are you hungry? Are you happy with who you are?
Yes.
If you're happy with who you are, and don't forget, you're beautiful. You're perfect. It doesn't matter. You fit into your clothes. Are they buying your clothes? No. Are they doing all of those things? No. Are they making the food for you every day? No.
Yes.
And I think that's so important. Like we allow a lot of the value that we think we are worth. We allow it to come from people who contribute zero.
You know, there's a beautiful
your homes,
saying
you know?
that I heard. It says, I'm not what I think I am. I'm not what you think I am. I am what I think you think I am.
Yeah.
So basically what it means is what we think others perceive of us is what we believe we are.
Yeah.
And we need to break away from this mold that makes us believe that we need to look at ourselves and say, I am enough.
Yeah.
End of story, full stop. Nothing else is needed except that you are enough for you and for your inner child. And when you find that healing and there's that paradigm shift between that moment and the moment of what the world thinks about you, life opens up and life changes, and you begin to want to serve more than receive.
Yes.
You begin to want to give more than get. And
I think
that's
Allah
when there's
brings
beauty.
people into your life that kind of help you see those sort of things
Those
when you're
qualities.
ready to see it. Like, I think you have to be ready to see it, which is why I'm glad that that Allah didn't put anybody in my life who saw me as somebody they wanted to be with for the rest of their life at that time, because
You weren't ready for it. You weren't ready.
I wasn't ready. And I think I wasn't I wasn't spiritually ready for anything. And I got married at 29, which apparently is like very, very late. But I think the funny thing is, I married somebody who, this one thing used to drive me crazy, but I also married somebody who doesn't care what other people think of him. He doesn't care. He's sometimes it drives me crazy because he can be standoffish with people, but he's just,
it's so
he's
much
an
to learn
extreme
from.
introvert. So and when you're being an introvert, you kind of push people away. You'll say hi, but that's all you need to say. But he also doesn't care what people think of him. He thinks he's like, I think this of me, and it's enough that I think this of myself. It's okay. It used to drive me crazy because sometimes, you know, when you get married, you say, I love you a lot. I love you, right? Yeah. So I used to say, I love you, and he used to go, I love me too. It used to drive me crazy.
Yes.
Because never in my life have I said, I love me to me. And how can you love yourself? Like, what's wrong with you?
We were never taught that.
Yes.
Wow, and we've come to the end of this week's show.
Damn.
And we're going to move on to next week's show, where we're going to talk about how we can find this in us to love ourselves. It's been so emotional.
Yeah.
I know every one of you is feeling this. I'm feeling it. And if there's one lesson to take away from this week's show, is that if people expect you to dim your light, move out of that room, because that's not where you belong. We'll see you next week. I hope you enjoyed this. This is Moetivation, and let me motivate you.